as we talked a little bit about elevating healthcare facility folks as strategic partners, we have a tremendous amount of experience in the facilities realm, and we need to be able to help organizations better plan from a capital perspective, from an operational efficiency perspective, sustainability, resilience, et cetera, so that organizations can achieve their larger goals of caring for patients. Also, I think a risk and or opportunity, depending on how you look at it, is our workforce shortages and our pipelines.
You just noted a skill set that facilities leaders really have to take to heart, not necessarily to speak about themselves, although that's probably a component in a lot of ways, but speak on behalf of their systems, their teams, their operations, which, I mean, it's an incredibly technical field. But, if the patient care people can do it and speak about their technical field to leaders and get attention for their needs, or their risks and their successes, I think the facilities people have an opportunity there too, to be able to develop the skills to speak to their needs.
There's a major crisis facing healthcare facilities management. We have aging employees, aging buildings, and aging infrastructure. We've created the Healthcare Facilities Network, a content network designed specifically to help solve for these three pressing issues in healthcare facilities management. We bring on thought leaders and experts from across healthcare facilities management, all the way from the C-suite to the technician level, because at the end of the day, we're all invested in solving the aging issue. Thanks for tuning in. Look at our videos. You will find that as a theme across our content. This is the Healthcare Facilities Network. I'm your host, Peter Martin.
We're talking to Alison Brisson, and we're talking to Katy Quinn. Both are running for ASHE President 2026. I'm going to ask Alison to more formally introduce herself in a bit, but we start. So this episode is being released on July 31st, and so we start with on a heavy note. I need to. My former business partner and friend, Jack Gosselin, passed away just yesterday. So that was July. We're recording July 16th, and it is only fitting that I talk about it here on the Healthcare Facilities Network. Jack was a wonderful man. It's funny. I first met Jack, John Crowley. Thank you for making that introduction. But I first met Jack in 2013, and I think the reason we got along so well and we had such a great partnership was that Jack loved to talk and I loved to listen. And so from there, we got along swimmingly. And I have so many stories, so many memories of Jack over the years, from Jack's idiosyncrasies at airports. I used to film him. It was something to see. His love of Rubens, his love of the Rolling Stones, his love of Joe Castiglione and the Red Sox, his love of trains. I never had met anybody who loved trains more. His love of his family, his wife Steph, his sons Ian and his son Alex, and his grandchildren. Jack was just full of life. And so rather than drone on and on about what a great guy Jack was, and he was, and all the things Jack liked, I think one story is instructive, or to who Jack was. And so I came into Jack's business in 2014. We negotiated a lot of 2013. And Jack was a man of his word. He was a man of integrity. Jack and I never brought any lawyers into the whole thing. It was just always him and I and handshakes. And sometimes we'd go backwards and sometimes we'd go forwards. But he was always an honest broker. And there's few people that you could literally trust to keep to their word and do what they would say, and you still come out on the other end saying, you know what, that was a success. And so I'll stop there. I will say it is fitting that we're talking to Alison. It's fitting that we're talking about the ASHE presidency, her running for the ASHE presidency, Jack so loved ASHE, and he loved the New England healthcare engineers. And, Jack and I would go every year to the conference. And Jack, if you've gone to the ASHE annual, and I know the ASHE Innovation, Alison, I know you know this, when you're walking around the trade show floor, they give away all those tchotchkes, right? All the crap that you really don't want. But Jack loved it. Jack lived for it. Jack would get his bag, and Jack would walk vendor to vendor. He wouldn't talk to them. He would just take what they had. He would like their food. He would take their tchotchke. He would be so proud of himself, and he would take that bag, and he would always bring it home full of crap. Michelle Dean, who I know you know, Michelle Dean would complain because Jack would bring it into his office. He might give her a whistle, might give her a back scratcher, might give her a Stretch Armstrong, whatever it happened to be. And Jack, though, loved working the trade show floor. And I went to visit Jack a couple of weeks ago when he wasn't doing so well. And his son Ian was there. And it was funny. We were actually talking about that. And Ian was obviously a little boy when Jack started to go. Now he's a grown man with a family of his own and 3 beautiful daughters. But Ian and Steph, Jack's wife, were talking about that. Do you remember, Dad, all that crap you would bring home? And it used to drive him nuts. But Jack loved it. And Jack loved so much in life. And I thank him, for so much. And I remember when we started the Healthcare Facilities Network, this YouTube channel, I remember Jack and I talking, I'm like, Jack, we need to do something more to promote this opportunity. And Jack's like, well, what do you want to do? Jack was more old school, that, Alison. I had to drag him to be on this network. He only appeared once, and that was 3 years ago with Ed Brown. When he retired, he went back to get his captain's license. And I'll close with this. I said one story. He went back to get his captain's license. And I remember we would talk through it, and he was really nervous because he hadn't been to school since he graduated from UVM in 1976. And so he was nervous he would flunk. But he studied, and he passed. And he was so excited. And so we talked a little bit about that. And he went to work for the Mystic Seaport down in Mystic, Connecticut. And they have those little launches that go out through the river there. And so Jack was a captain on one of those little boats, and he was a tour guide. So he'd give his little tour. I think it was like an hour, but Jack loved to talk. So Jack could fill in with BS, whatever it happened to be. But Jack left that job, and here's the irony. Jack left that job because he said it was unsafe boating conditions, the way they got people in and out of the boat. He didn't feel it was done safely. He didn't feel it was done properly. He brought it to the Mystic people, asked them to fix it. They wouldn't. So like a good facilities director, what did he do? He left. He's like, because I don't want to be responsible for that. And that was Jack, full of life. And so, Alison, I know, you are knees through and through. You're a New Englander. You're right across the water. For me, I'm in Boston. You're in Cambridge. Any thoughts on Jack? He leaves a mammoth-sized hole.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, I think I met Jack probably 20 years ago. And right away, we hit it off. He's got a great sense of humor. And I feel like I do too. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but Jack was really a founding father of NIHEs. And I don't mean to make him sound like he was 100, but
I think he would like that.
But he really was. He was a past president of NIHEs, so New England Healthcare Engineers, for those of you who don't know what NIHEs is.
Thank you.
And he really he embodied healthcare facilities management, and he was so helpful in my career when I first started, because I had come from the hospitality field into healthcare and needed to learn right away. And he was just so helpful in that. And then, obviously with his business and then the Gosselin Martin Associates, the work that that company did for the pipeline of healthcare facilities professionals was unprecedented and just so helpful to our industry. So it is a sizable loss, and we will certainly miss him.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Allison. And with a very, very inelegant transition, and as I said, there is irony that we're talking about the ASHE presidency, and I'm talking to you. But let's talk Allison. Allison Brisson, what do you do? Who are you? Where do you work? Give us a little background professionally, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. So I'm the Vice President of Support Services, Facilities and Support Services for Cambridge Health Alliance. So my team is responsible for the operations and financial performance for plant operations and maintenance, public safety, security, parking, transportation, food services, environmental services, real estate, planning, design, and construction. And we have a small but mighty 3-hospital system here and about 20 offsite locations. And we are a safety net system. So at the core, we're really providing care for the underserved. So it's a rewarding position to be in. And I've been here for 3 years now. So I enjoy my role greatly. And, we have, my teams have a great deal of responsibility in ensuring that the environment is safe and we're able to provide high quality care here. So couldn't do it without my team.
So you mentioned that you came in from the hospitality area. Now, I know your backstory, but for people who don't, they hear hospitality into FM. Can you talk a little bit about that transition? How did it happen?
Yeah, sure. So I was in hospitality management for about 17 years, and a friend of mine worked for a hospital system in New Hampshire and had been trying to recruit me into healthcare for some time. And I kind of had an aha moment and said, in hospitality, I don't feel like I'm totally challenged anymore. And I don't feel like I'm helping the people of my community. Obviously, people do come in hospitality and have a wonderful meal and a place to stay and all of that. But I wanted to take my skill set of capital planning and leadership and employee relations and customer service and strategic planning and apply that to something that really, really made a difference. And I found healthcare to be that path for me. And I actually originally came in as a practice manager. So I worked on the physician corporation side and ran a urology practice actually for a few years. But then it was sort of like a gravitational pull that brought me into facilities. And once I entered into the world of facilities management, I never wanted to leave. I absolutely love it. I grew up in the lumber industry. My dad had a couple of lumber yards, so I would skate around on a pallet jack as my skateboard when I was young. And so, I had kind of the trades and, that in my bloodline, I guess I would say. And so I found that, the transition from hospitality to healthcare was actually a really good one, because in hospitality, I was a general manager, so similar to a director or maybe even an assistant VP, where we had overnight stays. We had accrediting bodies with AAA and mobile inspections. Like I said, we had strategy and capital planning and human resource management and all of the things that we have in healthcare. However, as if you're in healthcare, there's a lot more code and regulation because there's a lot more risk, right? Yes. So, but really the foundation was there. I just needed to learn a little bit more about the NFPA standards for healthcare built environments and other standards that like with Joint Commission or DNV, so that I could be successful in the role.
Let me ask you a question. You talked about hospitality. I was talking to Mike Neely from Baycare down in Florida. And if you haven't watched that episode, watch it, because Mike and I talk a lot about hiring and bringing people in. But we were talking about skills, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on this.
Mm-hmm.
Mike said that, and it shows you how the skill set, like what's needed, is changing. Mike said, you're not going to get exactly what you're looking for, right? They're just not, like, you can't create the perfect candidate anymore. There's not enough of them, and there's too much challenges. But Mike said he would take a person who's got the soft skills. If they have the customer service, if they can communicate, if they have the soft skills, the hospitality bent that you were talking about, he's like, I'll take that because I can teach them the technical part. But if they don't have that, it's much more difficult. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel similarly, or what do you kind of think about the breakdown in skills at the trades level? What's necessary for success?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Although, I think it is still important that you have skilled trades in healthcare and licensed skilled trades. But I think it's becoming less and less where the skilled trades folks are only in the boiler room and are not interacting with other people in the organization, are not coming across patients, etc. So now, we do need to be able to interact with others, and in tandem with having those technical skills. So and our teams are, sometimes they're larger, sometimes they're smaller, but we have to be able to have, excellent teamwork to be able to advance the mission of whichever department you're working in. So, I think having the ability to be able to have conversations and in a respectful way, understand other people's perspective, understand that, each day is going to be a little bit different and probably not as you planned, is something, that we need. But I think that there's no question we have to look at other industries, other pathways of bringing people into our industry, because it is harder and harder to find candidates to fill the seats.
Are there industries you find are more fertile or produce a better outcome, or is there any industry that stands out for you?
I've had great success with folks with a military background.
Yeah.
And have had some success with folks from the lab industry or aerospace, but also, hospitality, like we talked about, certainly. Business, folks with business degrees, have been very successful. Nobody's going to believe this, but it's true. I recently, within the last couple of years, had one of my staff members who was in public safety actually transitioned over to facilities engineering as a director, and he's doing fabulously. He has the leadership skill set, knows how to ask the right questions, knows how to motivate the team, and it's worked well. So I think we just have to think a little bit broader about how we're bringing people into what we do. Yeah,
no, you know what? I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but I think you're exactly right. I find that Jack and I, ironically enough, God bless him, we would talk about that all the time because he loved to talk and he never stopped talking. And he realized, but we would always talk like to kids. The ability to ask a question and to listen to the response is so important. In some ways, like, it's a lost art. Just asking and listening, you uncover so much. You really do. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to listen to you. What do you like about what you do, Alison?
Well, as I mentioned, just transitioning from, now it's been 20 years since I've moved into healthcare, so it's been a while.
It's a career.
You're right. Yeah, it's a real thing. Yes. But I really like that. My teams really make a difference for people, and when often we're mostly doing work behind the scenes, and people may not exactly know what it is we're contributing. But they do know when things go poorly or aren't working. They certainly know. But, having the ability to impact the way that care is delivered, and it really, we are saving lives every day with the work that we do. We're making it so caregivers can focus on the care of patients. So that, to me, is incredibly rewarding. It's also, I love what I do because it always challenges me, and I learn every day. And it stretches me as a professional to learn and grow and keep current with codes and standards and business practices, and now AI and other tools that we have at our disposal to make our jobs easier. I also find a great amount of satisfaction in mentoring and educating. So when I'm able to help somebody develop in their career and see their success, that's a true win for me. So I truly enjoy doing that.
Yeah, no, he did love that, and not to sidetrack it, but it's funny. You had your post on LinkedIn from the July 3rd. You weren't on the Eagle, were you?
I did go on the Eagle.
You were on the Eagle, yes.
The Coast Guard cutter. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack would have tossed you off the Eagle so he could be on the Eagle.
Yeah, that was amazing. I had planned to go see the tall ships yesterday on Wednesday, but on Monday I read the schedule and I saw that the Eagle was going to be leaving on Tuesday, and I said, oh gosh, that's really awesome. The one I want, one of the ones I really want to see. Yeah. So I got down there like literally probably 20 minutes before they closed the tours, and I got on the boat.
Great timing.
It was special.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I do want to ask you why you decided to run for ASHE president, but before I do, because you brought it up, you talked about kind of advocating in the C-level and just people understanding what facilities does more than when just something breaks. How do you help executives in your organization? How do you help them see the strategic value that facilities brings and what you do?
Yeah, so I think we have to shift the narrative from just facilities as an expense department to really being a partner in organizational outcomes. I think also explaining the risk of not doing certain things and the impact of patient care is an important driver of the conversations. I think that when we communicate and celebrate the work that our teams do, it really can be an eye-opener for folks that don't always understand exactly what our teams are doing in the background. So I think, really having the conversations around, we need, for example, this much in capital funding to be able to ensure that patients still have access to the ORs, still have access to their primary care providers, have the right safe environment and reduce infection risks. So you really have to tie it to we're really keeping the buildings, which to us are like a human, alive, so that they can be there and the organization can continue on their way. But also now with more and more stretched sustainability goals, it's also kind of navigating what we need to be planning for what we need to do now, what we need to be planning for in the future, and what that means for the future of healthcare.
Yeah, no, do you find it, so 20-year career, you've been in the VP role for 3 years, but do you find that is more challenging today? And when I say that is more challenging today, advocating for at the C-level and getting the buy-in, has that changed over the years, the difficulty in doing that, or is it the same?
I think it really depends on your relationship with the C-suite and your ability to make good connections and your ability to really articulate the needs of your departments. So I will say at CHA, it's a great, we have a really nice dynamic here. And so it's not, for me, it's not as challenging, I don't think, or maybe I've just become more skilled. I don't know.
Probably both.
But you know, we do compete for dollars, you know, in some ways. You know, an OR robot is an expensive endeavor, but you know, I think getting the other part of it is really putting systems in place so that as organizational priorities shift and or are planned for, they include the facilities components of those plans. So, you know, I mentioned in OR robot. Okay, do we have the power? Do we have the space? Do we have, you know, is it the right air changes, et cetera? Do we have the support spaces? Do we have the spaces in our central processing to clean the instruments, et cetera? So, you know, just kind of bringing that value so that we're looking at projects throughout the continuum of the project, from the clinical needs to the infrastructure needs.
Yeah, nothing happens in a silo, that's for sure. So, transitioning, Alison, why did you decide to run for ASHE President 2026?
Right, so it's President-Elect, running for President-Elect, and
if 2027.
Right, yeah. If elected, I would be President-Elect in 2027.
Yes.
And then
sorry, Dennis. Or sorry, Danielle.
Yeah. No, all good. You know, I think it's ASHE has been a huge part of my career. I would not be where I am without ASHE and the tools and resources that ASHE has given me, especially, you know, as I mentioned 20 years ago, changing career paths. You know, I think that running for President-Elect is my way of being able to give back to the profession, but also I think that I come in with a great deal of experience, and I am a strategizer, and the advisory board does do a lot of work around strategy for the organization. And when I served on the advisory board for 4 years, I had the opportunity to help inform 2 different strategic plans. So, you know, a lot of what you're seeing out of ASHE now came from a few years ago and the advisory board that was in place then. But I find a lot of passion in that work, and it's volunteer work. You know, I do that really on my own time, right. And but it's fulfilling in that we're helping to shape the trajectory of our profession in the future, and ensuring that we have the tools and resources and really the best tools and resources to be able to do our jobs efficiently, effectively, safely. So that's why.
What do you look at, or what do you see, I should say, as some of the opportunities and some of the risks within the field?
Yeah,
at large?
I think. Yeah, thank you. I think that you know, as we talked a little bit about elevating healthcare facility folks as strategic partners, we have a tremendous amount of experience in the facilities realm, and we need to be able to help organizations better plan from a capital perspective, from an operational efficiency perspective, sustainability, resilience, et cetera, so that organizations can achieve their larger goals of caring for patients. Also, I think a risk and or opportunity, depending on how you look at it, is our workforce shortages and our pipelines, and what we are doing to ensure that we have have a successful pipeline of folks coming into our industry. We're going to be constantly competing with other industries for the same type of talent, and we, I think, really need to get people excited about the work that we do early. And when I say early, I mean like high school early.
Yeah.
So that we have a pipeline of folks that are interested in these types of roles. But that can't be the only strategy. I think we've got to have multiple pathways to get into the industry, like we talked about with folks coming in from other industries as well. But if we're seeing that as a significant problem now, and really the work that we do now is going to help us in the future. So that's what I'm excited and motivated by.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that like early, very early. Talking, and I've said this before, but I occasionally talk to folks down Mass Maritime, on our southern coast, and I was very surprised. They told me a couple of years ago, like, it's into high school now, and some even like 8th grade. It's crazy. When I was in 8th grade, well, you were on your skateboard in the lumberyard. None of us were thinking about what we're doing as a career, but it's changed so much, and you kind of got to get people early, and you fortunately found your way into it, and it just doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. What do you think, relative to kind of attracting people into it? What do you think can be done to attract folks into it? Because we know we're up against pay, right? You're not going to be the highest payer. You never are. It's the way it goes. But what can attract folks in, do you think?
I wish we could fix
I know.
I wish we could fix the pay situation. But, I think if people would like a higher purpose in the work that they do, and they want their work to be really rewarding and fulfilling, then I think we have a strong case. Can you be a facilities manager of, business occupancy, business offices? Sure. And can you have a good career in that? Yes, you probably could. I think that we in healthcare facilities engineering, we do that plus. And I think that is, if you like to be challenged and you like to be creative, this is a good career for you. But I think that we also need to attract people in by getting the word out that it's not just nurses and doctors that work in healthcare. There are a lot of other folks that make things tick here. And so I think getting people introduced into what the role is and how rewarding it can be, and how it can really build you as a person, as a leader, build your character. It's a good career to get into. So I think those conversations need to start early, and I think mentorship is a good way to do that. So, mentorship, bringing people in from high school, college, like you said, even maybe elementary school. Heck, I would bring in my 5-year-old niece and show her if that will help in the future. Just really kind of showcasing and being proud of the work that we do and the importance of it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you talked about your 5-year-old niece. It reminded me. So, Patrick Murphy and I, we went out to dinner last night with a consultant, and the consultant happens to watch the Healthcare Facilities Network. So he was telling us that his 10-year-old son heard an episode, and he said, I believe his story. I don't think he was blowing smoke, but his 10-year-old said, "Dad, if I was an engineer, would I have a good career in healthcare facilities management?" And his father's like, "Yeah, you would." So it's interesting. It goes back to your point of it can't be one way to get people in. It has to be a number of ways. And listen, he's 10. Is he going to be a healthcare facilities manager? Probably not. But at least it's on his radar now. And that's off of a random YouTube show, right? So it has to be many things as opposed to one thing. And I want to go back to you and ASHE and running, but so often I hear organizations, to attract people, they're only putting it out on social media. And as Mike Neely said, it's like, your trades folks, they're not always on social media. They're using more traditional, like Monster, or they're not on TikTok, or not that it helps, but you use a multitude of tools to get people. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to. So Alison, if you would have 3 goals for your presidency, what would they be?
Absolutely. So I think, kind of what we've touched on here, but goal number 1 is really continuing to build and developing the future of our workforce. So developing those pipelines. We do have, ASHE does have some collaboration with colleges. I think we need more. I think we need more in our regions. And just really building excitement around the work that we do and interest. So I know you said the 10-year-old may not become a healthcare facilities manager, but let's make sure he knows what he'll be missing.
Right.
So, so I think, truly building excitement around what we do and doing that at an early stage, building more relations with schools so that they're educating folks to be ready or closer to ready day one in the healthcare field.
So that they're close to ready day one. Is there something that you would like that automatically comes to top of your mind that would prepare? Because you're never fully prepared, right? But is there something specific you think could be built into a curriculum that would help on day one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ASHE is doing that with some community colleges. But I think, being sure that some of the baseline knowledge around codes and how to handle things in the healthcare environment and the importance of the work, it is critical coming right into the field. Of course, each facility is different and you would have to be oriented to whatever facility you're in, but the basis of what we're trying to do is very similar. We're all, for the most part, following similar codes. So I think
for the most part, I like that.
Yeah, right. Getting early knowledge of what we do and why. That's the really important piece, is not just what we have to do, but it's why do we have to do that. Is so important to educate folks early. Also strengthening the value that ASHE delivers by providing resources to members that they can, implement in their facilities under real constraints. And I think leveraging AI, getting data and information in a way that it can be accessed more readily, easily, quicker. We have less and less time. And just like we talked about with pipelines, I think it's not a one size fits all as to how people need to receive and learn. So, I think that we need to continue with diversity in how we develop education and send that out to folks or make that available to folks. But also, just ensuring that members have resources to mentorship. And, we do have the ASHE community, which is also a huge resource and is amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to phone a friend to be able to help get an answer to something that I really just couldn't figure out or some sort of challenge. So it's not only education, but networking too, and being sure that we have the right opportunities in the right way for the right people. And then I think the goal number 3 is really around elevating the work that we do, because, again, I think that, when people think of hospitals, they think of doctors and nurses and don't necessarily think of the folks that do all of this work in the background to ensure that people have a place to come and work and receive care. So I think we really need to have a stronger voice to lift up the work that we do. And that's going to help with goal number 1 around the pipeline, and hopefully compensation. And really, I think that the work that our teams do deserves a great deal of respect and recognition. And so that's something that I would like to elevate.
You mentioned AI just quickly. Have you guys started to utilize it? Have you found a helpful Not helpful. Have you found an easy, or not easy, but have you found a way to integrate that assists you because you are so taxed on time? Is there one or two ways you're using it effectively?
Yeah, we are at Cambridge Health Alliance, we are a Google shop. So we do use Google Gemini, which is really helpful for taking notes in meetings, et cetera.
Yes.
And it will email folks right after the meeting with the notes. You have to sometimes sift through there to be sure that it's, correct.
Yep.
But that's one way that it certainly has helped. And then, there are certainly a number of things under the facilities realm with smart devices and other tools and technology that are helping us do more with less people and more with really less time. So yeah, it's definitely helping us, and it will continue to. And I think it just changes every day. It advances. So it's exciting. It's an exciting future.
It is in some ways, and I know it's scary. A lot of folks, well, not scary, but can be daunting. But like from a timing perspective, you have fewer people, you have less time, and this is a way that can bridge some of that gap.
I think the future for ASHE and our membership will really be, sort of an AI situation where we can plug in and get reliable information around codes and standards, et cetera, rather than a variety of different sources. So what I'm proposing or talking about is one source that has the ability to pull from multiple sources, but is specific to healthcare facility engineering. So that's something I'd like to see advance in the future.
We're talking about that on our end, just with knowledge. I mean, you have the ability to do it. It's a little bit of an upfront, but it's there. Just tap into it. So talking to Alison Brisson, Vice President of Facilities Management Support Services, Cambridge Health Alliance, running for President of ASHE. Alison, if there's one thing you'd like people to take away from this conversation, what is it?
I think that I really would be honored to become President-Elect of ASHE, and I hope that the membership and the folks that are looking at this and watching this understand and recognize that healthcare facilities isn't just about buildings. It's about people, and it's a lot more than you think. And I think that even though patients may never know our names, they see the work that we do every day. And I want folks to remember that the work that we do is truly saving lives every day. So it's important work, and I appreciate everybody that's in the field, and I'm thankful to be in the field. I think that we're in this together. Let's move it forward together.
Excellent. And you will be, so this release, July 31st, you'll be at the Innovation Conference, and you'll be doing your speech on Monday, correct? Was that August 2nd, August 3rd?
Yes, on Monday. Yep, in the afternoon, I think around 2:00-ish. So yeah, I look forward to that.
They should move that into the morning. You want to be able to enjoy your lunch, not knowing you don't have to get up there and speak. Well, that's me talking. So it's always about the stomach.
It's good. I'm looking forward to it, to address that crowd of people that really make healthcare run. It's an honor.
Good opportunity. Alison Brisson, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to the network. And more importantly, share it with your colleagues in the healthcare industry. Together, we can solve the aging crisis that's impacting all of us.
So now we have our second presidential candidate running for ASHE President 2026, Katy, Quinn. Katy, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining. I have to tell you, I'm always partial to the name Katy because my oldest daughter is a Katy. She's a Catherine Katy. She's Martin. So she begins with she's a C though.
Oh, yes. There's probably a dozen different iterations for sure.
Well, yeah, and you probably know too, because you spell yours Katy. I'm sure people have butchered your name. Even my daughter's is pretty simple, but it's amazing how many different ways you can spell Katy.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. My aunt, my mom's sister, when I was born, made shirts for my parents that said Katie's mom and Katie's dad, and that was the spelling.
Yep. Now, I know on your professional profile, it's Catherine Katy Quinn, but do you ever use Catherine? Is it always Katy?
It's mostly Katy for sure. I think there's definitely been different times, especially in my college career or in my work career, where I've tried to stick with Catherine and the Katy always comes out.
Yes. Now, I don't know about your college career. It's too bad the college career is only 4 years.
Oh, mine was 6.5.
6.5. But I saw you went to Boise State.
Yes, for both my bachelor's and my master's, yes.
Nice. Did you go to the football games at Boise?
Oh, yeah. When I was a student, I'm lucky to say it was much easier to get tickets to go to the games. There were definitely seasons when I was a student where we weren't so great, so it was a lot easier to attend the games. But yeah, great college environment. Boise wasn't as big as it is now when I was going to school here, so I got to do dorm life and be on campus and go to the games. Yeah, great experience at Boise State.
Yes. Yeah, no, I love the turf too, the blue turf of the what's that word? It's so distinctive. It's the only blue turf in the country, right?
Sure is. Yeah. And I think
hard to not recognize.
Eastern Washington and our geography has the bright red turf, which is kind of cool.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I have to check that out. They're not as good as you guys in football, so that's
probably
not
why
as
I
much
haven't
on
seen TV for sure.
Yes. So Katy, actually, we've kind of talked about Boise. Tell people, what's your role? What do you do? Who are you with? What's your position?
You bet. So I'm the West Region Manager for Safety and Emergency Management for Trinity Health. I'm based out of Boise, Idaho, but I cover the St. Alphonsus Health System region, which is we have 2 hospitals in Eastern Oregon, 2 hospitals in Southwest Boise, and then about an 80-site clinic or medical group network across that entire footprint. And I also support our hospital, St. Agnes in Fresno, California. Wow. It's really interesting. There's a lot of similarities between Fresno and Boise, and back to football, they're pretty strong competitors.
Yes.
There used to be before all the tournament groups got mixed around. But then, so Boise and Fresno are pretty similar sized hospital. We're in a city urban location. And then my hospitals that I support in Eastern Oregon are very rural. They're an hour away from the next hospital location. And in fact, the furthest one from me out in Baker City, Oregon is a critical access hospital.
Nice. So yeah, you're extending. It's funny you said Eastern Oregon. My roommate freshman year was from Eastern Oregon. He was from a small town called Boardman.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And so, it's funny. So I was a freshman in 1985. And so I'm from, the Boston area, and Tom was from Boardman, Oregon,
very rural,
where there was nobody. And Tom was literally a guy who they tipped cows. I was like, people really do that?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And one time I drove through Boardman. He had moved away, but I was like, wow, he was telling me the truth. There was really not a lot there, but I love that. I love that part of the country.
It's beautiful. I'm native to the Pacific Northwest, so I grew up in Western Washington, but my family actually relocated to La Grande, Oregon, so just outside of Baker City, and then I landed in Boise for college. So I've kind of made this big loop over my life around the Pacific Northwest.
Not a bad place to make a rotation.
No, it's beautiful, and I'm lucky all my family is still in this area, so we get to see each other and revisit all the places we've lived around the area. Yeah.
Excellent. So that's what you do. What do you like about what you do, Katy? What do you like about the role? What do you like about the industry?
A loaded question there.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. In fact, my friends and I were kind of talking about this the other day, just how, our different careers and things have evolved after college. And came to realize in talking to them, I am in a career right now that when I finished my master's, I had no idea that this role even existed.
Yeah.
So I think, I started college pursuing a bachelor's of biology, and that's actually what I ended up with. I feel like I get to uniquely say I never changed my major or anything like that in my college career, but I originally started out thinking I was going to be an orthodontist.
Oh, wow.
And when it got point to wrapping up my bachelor's, that path just didn't feel like the right path for me anymore, but I still really liked health. I've always been interested in health science, and I think there's a lot of, I kind of saw at an early age, there's a lot of advantage in choosing a career in this realm. There's stability, there's always a need in the community. And from a human perspective, it really is great to be a part of something where you're providing a service, back to others or back to the community. And so I finished my bachelor's and really just thought, I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet. And I just kept going to school. So I started a Master's of Health Science program, literally 3 weeks or so after graduating with my bachelor's. And through that program, sorry?
You didn't wait. You just went.
I didn't wait. No.
You kept going on.
No, it was kind of like, I gotta keep going to school to figure this out, I guess. But through my graduate program, I got to take courses around epidemiology and environmental health and safety. And I really just became drawn to that kind of career. And so the downside is I finished my graduate degree in the summer of 2008 when the economy was really struggling.
Yeah, it went down.
And so my mindset when I graduated was I just need a job anywhere remotely connected to this field.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to become the health educator in the public health emergency management department here in the Boise area. And then even more fortunate, not so fortunate for the incident, fortunate for my career and my experience, but H1N1 happened about a year after I started at public health. And that was amazing. I mean, just from a career perspective, obviously, but just learning what a real world response looks like, putting our plans in action, that we had been working on, and I had certainly only been working on for a short time given my time in that role before the event happened. But I really just enjoyed the problem solving, the teamwork. You're kind of faced with these impossible situations, these impossible questions, and you just have to rely on your history and your experience and what others are doing to figure out the best course forward in a lot of different ways. And I think that in a different scale today, for sure, not luckily dealing with a pandemic, I still get to apply those experiences today on different situations. I'm really fortunate to have an excellent team to work with here. I work with, certainly our facilities leaders, but infection prevention, security, our workplace violence program manager, and those are just within the walls of my system. But I also get to collaborate with my, co-emergency managers in the other health systems in the area, EMS, county emergency management. And so I just enjoy that part, the teamwork and kind of problem solving in these really impossible situations that we're faced with.
So tell me, how did you make the leap from the public health over to the hospitals?
Yeah, I was in public health for about 5.5 years. So I started, as I said, as a health educator, and then just through turnover and, being fortunate in my career growth, I got to be the program manager for our public health emergency management program in the Boise area. And, through the years of being in the different roles within that program, and then eventually as a program manager, I had the chance to work with people that are in my role now in the hospital-based setting. And I really thought in the moment, I was like, the action is in the hospitals, and I guess I wanted more work. But I saw, going back to just really having that community service kind of mentality, and the hospital, public health certainly is mission based and supporting the community, but I could just see the dynamics and the action of the hospital being just kind of more aligned with where my interests were at that time, and still today. And having real patients within the walls of our hospital. I mean, the mission is very visible, every day on what we're trying to do in our different roles.
You use the word mission. I think that's really what separates people who really enjoy these roles from people who don't. Right? You tie into something bigger than you, and it invigorates you, if not challenges you.
Both. For sure.
Right. So, was there kind of an aha moment, and maybe? Obviously, the H1N1 sounds like it was one when you were, just breaking in. But within the healthcare facilities, emergency management realm, was there kind of an aha moment for you that changed your perspective on what you do, or you're like, or alternatively say, hey, I am really glad I made this choice to enter a field that I didn't know existed, because a lot of people, nobody knows the field exists. That's part of the problem, right? Bringing the spotlight to it, that this is a great field, but we don't promote it enough.
Yeah, I think there probably wasn't a singular moment, but just over time and having having the opportunity to kind of reflect on your career through different situations, especially the situations you remember the most. I mean, there's a lot of different moments I can think of that just kind of answer your question and give me like that why did you enter your career, and why did you stick around, basically. I think having people educate me when I was a new staff member, new to the hospital realm, and have the time to explain the importance of what we're doing. And it's not just, certainly there's regulatory compliance as our foundation, of course. But the why goes way beyond that. And there's such, I got the opportunity, my first hospital was in Lewiston, Idaho, small community. The hospital had been around forever. And there's such a tie in facilities like that. And you can have that too in an urban setting, but just from my first experience, there's such a tie with hospitals to the culture of the community and the emotions of the community, and you're a pillar organization, and you're looked to as a leader of the community, just as an organization. And I think I feel fortunate to have started at a hospital like that, and be able to, certainly learn my specific role, but then be connected in that way to our broader network.
Yeah. It's a very interesting perspective. You're right. Starting in that smaller environment, you probably see a lot more. You do a lot more. You wear a lot of hats, even though you have a formal hat.
Yeah. Which actually, I think that is another fortunate situation for me in starting in a hospital like that. Certainly I had my direct scope of responsibilities, but once you develop trust with your team, you get to know the leadership, you almost you can touch every department in one way or another throughout the course of, what's happening in the, at the time. And so, getting to be involved in, certainly emergency management responses, but, being involved with developing security policies and, ICRAs, ILSMs, and, all of the facilities work, it was, like I said, a great learning opportunity, great experience. I had, just great memories of starting out there.
Shifting gears a little bit, let's talk ASHE presidency. Why did you decide to run for the ASHE presidency, and what do you see kind of bigger picture as ASHE's role in healthcare facilities?
Sure. So I will say it wasn't, kind of back to your aha comment. I would say there's probably no aha moment for me as far as how I ultimately decided to run for ASHE president. I'm really fortunate in my career. my first boss in the hospital setting was a former ASHE president. And so literally day one, it was, hey, we're going to get you involved with the local Idaho chapter. You'll be a member of ASHE. Here's what it's about. Here's how you can access these resources. And, there's a lot you can do career-wise in this field, being part of your chapter and being part of ASHE. So I really don't know this career without that type of access or that type of resource, which I do feel fortunate saying. But I think it was, especially as a new person engaged in the hospital life, which, myself coming from public health into hospital, it's like you think you know what it's like until you do it. Yeah. And so I think just having access to people both, formally through conferences and things like that, as well as informally as you network and get to, meet peers and develop those relationships. You really just have such an appreciation for having access to people that have the been there, done that experience. And I think that's ultimately what ASHE supports at the national level, is just having that foundational network of people that are in your field. This is a difficult industry. These are hard roles. There can be hard days. But I do think we have more alike than we do different. And so being able to take advantage of that type of resource and that expertise from each other is significant. But back to how I kind of landed in the ASHE president candidacy spot, through my mentors being part of ASHE and serving at the national level, they have said, especially my former boss was like, oh, you'll be president of ASHE one day. And I feel like I am an ambitious person, and that has been a goal for me, but I always wanted to make sure, when I made the decision to run for president, it was going to be at the right time. I wasn't just going to run, for the sake of running. And, I think once you become a board member at the national level, as a regional representative, the pool of candidates any given year is pretty small, and you end up, ultimately competing with colleagues and people you've collaborated with on the national level as a board member. And so I always wanted to be in support of people that were interested in running in any given year, and really wanting to just, of course, carry out my board position term. And then I kind of thought, well, we'll just, kind of see what each year looks like. And if it's the right time for me, then, I'll throw my name in the hat and give it a go. And I think, towards the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, when we start the application process, there was just more things falling, more factors, both personally for me and work-wise. All of my hospitals are going through Joint Commission in 2026, so I can check that box off my to-do list. So there were just more factors falling in the column that, maybe this is the right time to step up. I also really thought about what it meant to be part of the succession plan. ASHE's one of ASHE's key speaking points, for every facilities person, but also for state chapters, for ASHE themselves, is having a succession plan, having an effective succession plan. And I also thought, I made the decision to, pursue chapter leadership, to pursue being on the ASHE national board. I am setting up myself to be part of the succession plan. So it was also, kind of thinking, why would I not try to carry that out to the fullest extent?
When you were talking about you run against people you were colleagues with and that you collaborated with, it made me think of, I was talking to Mike Hatton a couple of years ago. I interviewed him when he was president, and he said, and I'm wondering if you find this, he's like, for him, it was a step out of his comfort zone of kind of like being, you're not a politician, but yet
Right.
you're out there, you're putting yourself out there and you're speaking. And he said to me, a lot of folks in our profession, that's not how they start out. It's not what they want. So like for him to do it, he literally had to push himself because it's out of your comfort zone. And then once he did it, he's like, yeah. And he recommended that people not necessarily run for president, but try to push beyond that because the experience was positive overall. Do you find that? Does that push you out of your comfort zone, or are you naturally comfortable with it?
There are factors, kind of both, that I'm comfortable with and uncomfortable with. I mean, while I think this is a skill set I will develop throughout my life, I do feel fairly comfortable public speaking, just having had that experience behind me in different parts of my career.
Yeah.
College was definitely creating the foundation of public speaking. And then just with my role in the hospital setting, I frequently have to present either with senior leaders or to senior leaders. I've, presented to community members. Certainly had opportunities to present as part of my ASHE roles. I think probably less comfortable talking about myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think the concept, like you said, of campaigning and speaking about yourself is probably where I'm least comfortable.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So before joining CREF, worked in the recruiting world, and I used to tell folks all the time, like, who were looking for jobs, and obviously you're looking for a role, right? But I was like, you have to, especially during an interview, you got to advocate for yourself, because if you don't, like, nobody's going to. So
absolutely,
especially when you're going for jobs, like, you can't demur to that, because you won't get the role. Now, obviously, there's a balance, because you don't want to come off as, but so we talk about that too. But it's very interesting that you say that, because I think that's indicative of a lot of people in this field, right? You do what you do, not for the glory of it, but you love what you do. And as you talked about, mission. So what do you see, Katy, as some of the opportunities and risks that are out there now in the world of healthcare facilities, in the world of ASHE and hospitals?
I think, there's always going to be the foundation of regulatory compliance and just the ability to keep the lights on, the doors open to a hospital. But I think, thinking about how you sell yourself or speak about yourself, I think that is, like you just noted, a skill set that facilities leaders really have to take to heart. Not necessarily to speak about themselves, although that's probably a component in a lot of ways, but speak on behalf of their systems, their teams, their operations, which, I mean, it's an incredibly technical field. But, if the patient care people can do it and speak about their technical field to leaders and get attention for their needs, or their risks and their successes, I think the facilities people have an opportunity there too, to be able to develop the skills to speak to their needs, speak to their programs, have the opportunity to be in front of senior leaders. One thing, and this is, want to give credit to the facilities director at my facility, who started actually providing a pretty formal report out on, almost like the State of the Union for facilities management within our health system, using language that our senior leaders will understand, defining risk in a way that is understood outside of facilities, because I think it's easy to see for people that are just interacting with your environment, not inside of the facilities world. If the lights are on and the HVAC system's working and, it's like you don't notice us until something bad happens, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so I think really having the skill set to communicate what exactly they're dealing with, what's keeping them up at night, and making sure that senior leaders are aware of that, and that the collaboration can then begin to consider what is the path forward, for whatever the circumstances at hand. I know, we talked about succession planning a little bit from the ASHE perspective, but that's a hot topic within just the day-to-day facilities world too. I think it's important to really take a look at succession planning as a process. So, your succession plan isn't, I'll be gone and then you're going to come in and that's the plan. The plan really has to include, collaborating on orientation, setting the person up for success, making sure they have the right skill set, not only to be part of the succession plan effectively, but also carry forward, and ultimately take over a role or take over a leadership position that's part of their progression. I think, like I said, with ASHE being a resource, this is an incredibly difficult industry. I think it's important, to speak to the why, the mission of healthcare is clear. And, I know it's difficult in a lot of ways to discuss in this very short forum, but, having competitive pay is important, because people, especially from an entry-level perspective, working in a difficult field and maybe not getting the support once you're hired, it's easy to see how people would look for, perhaps a less intense industry with better pay and take that on if they weren't supported and fully ingrained in, the team and the culture of the organization.
Yeah, no, you're so true, so accurate with that. It's funny, I was over the weekend, this past weekend, Mike Rowe is the guy from, so yeah, and obviously big in the, getting people in the trades, but I heard an interview with him and he said that over that right now the Pentagon is looking for over 400,000 electricians and welders over the next 7 to 8 years just to work on the submarine program, like just the subs. And, you think about that, right? And it puts it into perspective, like, because, everything goes downhill and they're worried about finding them. So you get the Pentagon. We compete against people who can probably pay more, offer a little bit more. And as you said, the burnout rate is so high, especially if you get thrown into a role and you're not supported. You hit on mentorship, which is so important, but lots of companies don't do that because they just don't have the time. You throw people to the wolves.
Right. I do think though mentorship can take on a lot of different paths. I mean, I think one thing here, we have some new leaders within our facilities team. Some of them just are either new to healthcare totally, or they've worked in the healthcare field and maybe just never had an interest in taking a leadership role. But if they, I think it's capturing their talent and recognizing that, and really helping them maximize and show like you will have help and you will have friends, not only from the facilities realm, but from infection prevention, from security. We're all in the same boat, we're all in the same hospital. We are all tied to the same goals every day of making sure we have safe and quality patient care and the hospital looks like we want it to look, and everyone's working together to carry that out in whatever aspect they have to commit to that, and so I think really helping to make sure like it's okay to ask questions. I'm gonna say I don't know sometimes and you're gonna say you don't know sometimes, and we'll work together to figure it out. So I think mentorship doesn't just have to be mechanic to supervisor to facilities director, really looking at that team dynamic to mentor and be peer helpers to each other, to really get people, comfortable with that type of collaboration. And it's I'm speaking on my experience with my health system. We're not perfect, we have challenges and we have communication gaps, and I think also the ability to work through those is important too.
Yeah. So I was talking to a director this morning, and he said to me, so he's being promoted, so he's seeing more of the organization, and he said, Pete, It's like the higher up I get, he's like, the more I realize, at least in the system I'm in, that these C-level people are complaining to each other all the time and they don't get along. So I'm not asking you to respond on that. That's apparent. That's a statement that somebody made. But what I would like to ask you to go back to a point that you just made about advocacy. How can we help those executives, those C-level people who maybe they're fighting amongst themselves, but how do we help them see the strategic value of the facilities world and how it impacts, like its impact on patient care? What are some ways to do that?
Well, I think with, patient safety, patient satisfaction, which has elements that are directly tied to, cleanliness, the physical
Yeah.
environment, that kind of thing. Having that be part of hospital reimbursement, I think the C-suite does understand, at least, from a high level perspective, the importance of facilities and the physical environment on patient satisfaction scores and patient safety and understanding. And it's not just the patient. I mean, think about loved ones coming in to visit a patient and they're seeing the facility from a different side and then, commenting to the patient on what they are seeing and experiencing throughout the facility, either through, their visits to the cafeteria, using a public restroom, trying to find parking, coming in through, an entry lobby versus an emergency department where the patient may have come through. So even though there may be like one patient satisfaction survey, there potentially are multiple voices contributing to that information.
Yes.
So I really think it comes back to the granular detail of facilities being able to communicate, here's the plan for reflooring this area, or here's the plan for new infrastructure to ensure, we can maintain temperature and humidity in a way that's, both regulatory compliant and comfortable for patients and visitors. I think the other aspect too is certainly when an incident happens, a flood or another kind of utility failure that impacts patient rooms, that certainly gets the C-suite's attention. And so maybe it was a one-time unexpected incident, or maybe it's evidence of, a historical thing where, it is aging equipment or aging infrastructure that does need replaced. And now it has had a very, acute and unexpected impact on patient care or patient services. And so I think, having those communication skills, the record, of the work that has been done thus far to maintain the situation, and the ability to say, here's, based off of our history, based off of what we know has happened or what we are doing to maintain this, here's what I predict is going to happen over the next 6 months, year, 5 years, and then, being able to collaborate with the C-suite on how to move forward from there.
Relative to the new physical environment standards, have you found, I know you said you have your hospitals in the window. Have you gone through any yet? And did you notice a big change?
I hate to say both to all of your questions.
Okay.
I'll say both again.
I didn't. When you mentioned it,
yes, I have had 2 of my facilities have gone through Joint Commission this year. And it was a mixed bag. I mean, I think the building tour, a lot of the document review was familiar, to our process. I think one of the things we also were intentional about in preparing for, 2026 being our survey year, was really just maintaining what we knew was right in 2025. We, were educated on the new standards. We could speak to them. We understood the changes. And then we were intentional about, not on December 31st, 2025, just like swapping everything out. We just, we said, here's how we've maintained the 2025 and past versions of the information. And here's what we're looking forward to be more clear with the new physical environment standards, or even, change them out altogether. I think So I'm the chair of the SAWS EOC committee, and there's an old term, EOC now.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I think
still an oldie and a goodie.
yeah, exactly. But I think one thing, we haven't formally done this yet. I think our strategy thus far is still to just complete our round of Joint Commission surveys and then take the time to kind of reevaluate, okay, how do we actually move forward programmatically with the substantial changes that have occurred?
Yeah.
And it's almost like a EOC identity crisis. And it's not that sweeping changes are probably needed, but is there an opportunity to evolve our policies, our documents, our committee, in a way that may be more functional just for our day-to-day needs, in addition to being, compliant with the new regulatory standards.
Oh, well, thank you for that. You guys are unfortunately the guinea pig in 2026, right?
Yes.
I think
our survey experience has been pretty positive. Our surveyors were very educational focused, and that was great.
Excellent. So back to ASHE, 2 final questions. So if you could accomplish 3 goals during your presidency, what would they be, Katy?
I think one thing I would like to see more of, and ASHE already does this fairly well, but I think just more opportunity for the multidisciplinary conversations to happen within the ASHE forums. So, facilities managers, I think now, or facilities leaders, facilities teams are already day-to-day working with, their counterparts throughout the organization in security, infection prevention, patient care teams. I think really seeing that come forward more in how we develop, articles for HFM or conference presentations or webinars and that kind of thing, really helping to show like the ASHE focused resources that are for facilities management have been considered, reviewed, developed with a multidisciplinary mindset. And I think having those other voices be part of the information helps set up facilities leaders for success when they have to communicate that information back out locally. They're using infection prevention vernacular or, information that's current to patient care. And I think that will be very helpful. I think too, we think a lot about how to grow ASHE members into chapter leaders and perhaps even the ASHE national level. I think that can be more clear for our members to understand, if they're interested in navigating the ranks of their chapter and what does it mean to serve on the ASHE board or contribute to ASHE nationally, whether it be on a committee or, to a publication, really helping to foster that path for those that are interested. But I also think just ensuring our ASHE members have access, have access to our education, access to resources, access to their, their peer or leader network where they can get information, even if they don't, even if they aren't interested in moving up the ranks.
So I'm talking to Katy Quinn. She is running for ASHE President 2026. She's also safety officer and emergency management manager for Trinity Health West Region in Boise, Idaho. What would you like as a takeaway for folks who are listening, Katy? What would you want listeners to remember from this conversation, everything we've talked about so far today?
Well, first off, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to participate, and thank you to the listeners for taking the time to hear the conversation. I think one takeaway is, when I made the decision to run for ASHE President, I knew I was going to commit to the whole process. I want to be a present and attentive leader. And that is really important to me, not to just take on a level of responsibility that I hadn't, thought about. Could I really contribute at this level? Could I really, have the time in my life to give due diligence to the process and to the role? And I feel confident that I can at this moment. And so I appreciate the potential opportunity to serve in that capacity in the future. I also think, I'm from a smaller state chapter, had the opportunity to serve as a leader with my state chapter, had the opportunity to be on the national board. I think my perspective is similar to many members out there. And I, like to bring that perspective to the ASHE president role.
That's really an important distinction because we talk about that a lot, like the smaller community hospitals, the critical access hospitals that are in your state. In some ways, and this is the wrong terminology, you feel like they're getting left behind because they either don't have the funds to go, they don't have enough people to go, they simply can't, because like you early in your career, you were wearing multiple hats. So I think not forgetting about those folks is very important.
Absolutely. And I think that's where just making, again, the access to information and people as easy as possible. Ask a simple question, or don't ask us what you think might be a silly question. Because I think that's where connections can be made that will exist, over the course of someone's entire career, potentially. I think, like I said earlier, I think hospitals and our challenges day to day are more alike than they are different. And so someone else is probably going through a similar thing or has gone through a similar thing and can maybe point you on an easier path.
Yeah, this is a great community because people do help. Like you said, you asked the question, people are going to help you out.
Yes.
So you will be at the ASHE annual ASHE Innovation. You and Alison are speaking Monday afternoon, correct?
We are. Yes.
What time is that? What time
It's
is
in
that?
the afternoon, I
in
believe.
the afternoon?
Yes. Yes.
And voting starts the 2nd of August. And when does it end?
Yep.
Do you know?
Through the month. I believe it goes through the month of August.
It's a long month for you.
I know. It's all right.
It should make it a little easier. But anyway, well, Katy, Quinn, thank you for your time this morning. Good luck in August, and we'll see you out at the Innovation Conference.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katy. It's Peter Martin for the Healthcare Facilities Network. As always, thanks for watching. Go vote. You got 2 great candidates. You got Katy. You got Alison. Vote. Thank you.
If you want to be a guest on a future episode of the Healthcare Facilities Network, go to healthcarefacilitiesnetwork.com and let us know who you are and what you want to talk about, because together we can solve this critical aging issue.